Hi, I'm Arin Sime, CEO and founder at WebRTC.Ventures. Welcome to another WebRTC Tips by WebRTC.Ventures. In this tip, I want to mention some unfortunate news that Twilio is sunsetting programmable video as of the week of December 4th, 2023, in order to focus on messaging, email, and voice as their core functionalities. And unfortunately, this meant that they did a third round of layoffs in 2023. And so definitely a sad week for many Twilio employees. But it is important to remember that video remains important to your business, even as the providers and media servers that you use may come and go. And so that's why I wanted to record this tip, because if you're a Twilio user, you have of programmable video specifically, you have until December 5th, 2024 to move your application to another provider. But of course, although that's a year away from the announcement, they won't be releasing any new features or doing support of programmable video in that year. And so the sooner you can move, the better. And of course, it takes time, especially if you have an application at scale already in production with lots of users on Twilio Programmable Video. It takes time to migrate that to another solution. And so that's what I want to do in this video here, is share a few tips, few high-level things that you need to think about when you're migrating away from Twilio Video. Or really this advice applies to anytime you're considering moving from one CPaaS or one open source media server solution to another. These are some of the things that you need to think about based on our experience at WebRTC Ventures, where we have built live video and communication applications for clients across a lot of different industry verticals and using all of the major CPaaSs and open source media server solutions out there. So we've talked more about this on our blog as well at WebRTC.Ventures if you want to read a little bit more about the impact of this announcement and our advice. But let's go over 5 things that I would recommend that you consider as you decide where you want to migrate to from Twilio Programmable Video now, or whatever CPaaS you're on if you're watching this video at a different time, and thinking about moving to something else. Some 5 high-level things you need to think about. The first is fairly obvious, to make sure that you look at the features between them, because although most of the CPaaSs do have some very common features, you need to go beyond just a bullet point listing on their site of, yes, they support multi-party calls, or they support transcription or recording or whatever it is, because those features are not implemented the same way across the different CPaaS providers or across the open source media server solutions. And so you need to be sure that they're implemented either in a way that's consistent with the way your application works now, with the workflow that you have and that your users have come to expect, or a model that you're willing to move to, and that may require additional changes in your application. So doing a detailed feature analysis and probably some prototyping as well with that prospective new CPaaS. Also need to kind of consider the architectural implications of the move that you're making. So some implementations of media servers are based on an MCU or an FCU style architecture. You need to understand the differences between those, what you're using now, what's the best option for you. Although many modern WebRTC applications use an SFU type of media server underneath, there are definitely use cases where an MCU applies, especially when you're interfacing with external like telephony systems and things like that. You also need to consider, do you want to move from, say, Twilio Programmable Video over to another commercial CPaaS, or do you want to move to an open source media server solution? And that's a complicated question as well. A lot to consider in there, pros and cons. We've blogged about both of those things, and we also have other videos here on our WebRTC Ventures YouTube channel about both of those topics of MCUs versus SFUs and open source versus CPaaS. There's no right or wrong answer in those, but there may be a different answer based on your use case that you need to consider. Third tip is to make sure that you're looking at what SDKs do they have available. If you provide iOS and Android support, obviously you need to look for those, but even beyond that, if you develop in Flutter, do they have Flutter support? Or are you going to need to make broader changes in the languages that you use But also remember that the devices, uh, the features may not all work exactly the same way across those devices as compared to what you're used to now and how your current application is built. So not just do they have iOS support, but what do those SDKs look like? What do those implementations look like? Is that going to fit within your workflow, and is it consistent across all platforms that you'll be using? Fourth tip is to make sure you consider compliance and data protection. If you're using an open source media server or moving to one as part of this transition, then you're going to have to handle all of that yourself, of course. You probably are already handling that in your application as a whole, but there may be extra considerations you need to make in terms of media servers if you're moving to an open source model. If you're moving to another CPaaS provider, you need to make sure that you understand what, say, HIPAA compliance or GDPR compliance means for them. What documents you may need them to sign. Those may not be consistent. Some vendors will require that you have enterprise support plans with them in order to offer that type of compliance. So that's something else you need to make sure that you consider and factor into that, which leads into pricing, which, this is not necessarily a technical consideration, or at least you wouldn't think it is, but remember that the pricing model that CPaaS vendor uses may affect how you implement certain features. Do they charge by number of connections between users? Do they charge by amount of data being transferred? What's the pricing model that's being used for multi-party calls? If you have calls above 2 people, that can scale a lot, or recording, or adding on transcription, and all those sorts of things. So keep in mind these tips when you are looking at how you want to migrate away from Twilio Programmable Video, or between any CPaaS or between any open source solution. There are a lot of things to consider. And the last thing that I would say here about the Twilio scenario is that they have recommended to their users moving to the Zoom SDKs. And that may be fine for users of some of their more simple applications that look more like a meeting tool and therefore may fit into the Zoom paradigm of things most easily. But don't just take that recommendation at face value. There are a lot of other CPaaSs out there to consider, as well as open source solutions to consider. And they offer a lot more flexibility in how you can work with all aspects of the communication, whether it's video layout or how you handle streams, or if you're doing any processing of those streams with external third parties. These are handled differently across all of the APIs, and something that you need to look at very closely. So I would encourage you to make sure that you are taking a look at all of your options before rushing to a decision. Although you do have a year to transfer, the time will go by fast, but it does give you a little bit of time to make sure that you're looking at the correct solution. And we can help you with that at WebRTC Ventures. You can contact us for information, draw on our experience working across so many of these platforms in different industries. And we can even help you look at solutions like, do you want to look at using a wrapper around whatever alternative you move to now? We've done that with clients before, where they want to abstract out which media server that they're using or CPaaS that they're using, so that the impact of future changes will be easier on them if there's something like this where one provider may come or go, or if simply their primary provider is having an outage and they want to be able to switch to another provider pretty seamlessly. So that's something that we can help you consider the implications of in your current application, help you with those architectural choices, and help you choose your next steps, your next platform. Just contact us at WebRTC.ventures to get a quote and to learn more. Thank you for joining me for this WebRTC tip from WebRTC Ventures. Let's make it live.